Hey guys, my name is Sarah, and I haven't really figured out a name for my channel yet, so we're just gonna kind of like roll with it for right now. I'm just gonna go with Sarah. Today, for my first video ever, we're going to discuss the case of Emma Schmidt, she's also known as Anna Ecklund. This is the case that inspired The Exorcist. Today we're going to be looking into the most recorded case in American history of demonic possession. Emma was born March 23rd, 1882 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but she was raised in Marathon, Wisconsin. Poor Emma started to show signs of demonic possession at the age of 14. Because, girls aren't really going through enough at the age of 14. Let's just add in demonic possession. Let's just make it more fun. Emma's case garnered worldwide attention when a 48-page booklet called Begone Satan was translated into English from German in 1935. This book was written by Father Vogel, and he was actually there for the possession. You can actually still get this book on Amazon. I did. And it only took me like an hour to read through. You can actually get this on Kindle and say, "Hi, that's Beckett. She's a little sweetheart. Hi, Beckett." This little booklet was even published in Time magazine. There's an article written on it, and multiple articles are also in this particular version of Begone Satan. So Emma's possession ended at the age of 46. I wasn't able to find out a lot about her early life, and there's a lot of contradicting information because they did try to cover up Emma's name by using Anna Ecklund or Mary X. Some of the demonic possession signs that Emma was demonstrating was the revulsion to holy objects, i.e. the Bible, the cross, your stereotypical demonic possession. Disturbed thoughts, although I wasn't able to find out what these were. Like, what kind of disturbed thoughts is a 14-year-old going to have that causes her dad to scream possession? Ew, excuse me, bless you. I'm going to have to take the sneezes out. Who knows how loud that was? I was right into my microphone. She also developed an inability to enter a church. Like, her body would physically stop when she tried to enter, and she was a very devout young woman. Emma also reportedly began to partake in unspeakable sexual acts. I don't know what those were. They are never described. I don't know if it's like she kissed a girl, or I don't even know, like, because it was the 30s, it was the 20s, so like, what? It could have been anything. Could have been she kissed her hand and they found that to be an unspeakable act. An unspeakable sexual act. God. Figuring out how to edit this is going to be kind of a bitch. Especially because I don't know how to edit. So, this is going to be great. So fun. So, the reason that 14-year-old Emma was possessed was by her father. Yes, her actual father had her possessed. He apparently had cursed spirits into Emma, leading her to be under possession by orders of Morningstar himself. So Emma or her father must have been a pretty big deal for Lucifer himself to order a 14-year-old little girl to be possessed. I mean, I think he's got a lot of other things going down. At least in Supernatural, he's got like all these things he has to do, Priest Reisinger, I don't know. This is just going to be pronounced wrong the whole video. Reisinger asked the demon why. So Judas responded, to bring her to despair so that she will commit suicide and hang herself. She must get the rope. She must go to hell. Emma was also being possessed by her father and her Aunt Mina. Her father had died. I'm not really sure when, but apparently her Aunt Mina and her father had died. Let's talk about Emma's father for a second. In Begone Satan, it talks about how her father stood against the church. He was a member of the American Protective Association, a secret anti-Catholic group that was started by the Protestants. he was a alcoholic and a womanizer, and he may have even attempted to SA Emma. Her father admitted to attempting to try to force Emma while he was speaking to the priest under demonic possession. Now, it's important to note that possessed or not, depend like what you believe, Emma was talking about unspeakable things that had happened to her as a child, whether she gave that information through the possession or she was mentally ill or had I don't know, but she was speaking about things that horrific that happened to her as a child. And all of that should be taken into account. The reasoning he gave to have his own daughter possessed was that she refused him, so he wanted her to suffer. He wanted to have her ruined body and soul. And if that isn't the most man thing that I've ever heard, it is. Sources listed for this video down below, although the biggest source that I used was the book. I also used an article, but other than that, mostly the book. But the links will be down below. Y'all, so in the article, Cult of Weird has the father Ratzinger face off with Lucifer himself. And it's kind of badass. My nail. I think I'm going to do a video on that himself, although Lucifer did make an appearance in this possession as well. He's getting around, that devil dude. In 1912, on June 18th, Emma had her first exorcism performed by Father Ratzinger. Emma was 30 years old at this time and had been suffering with demonic possession since she was 14. The first exorcism worked for several years, and it's been recorded in the papal records in the Vatican, which I really would love to get my hands on and be able to see all the records that they keep down there. How interesting would that be? But so while it worked for multiple years, once again in 1928, Emma had started suffering again and was repossessed. This time it was taken way more seriously than your first possession, because the Bible talks about how if a person is possessed and then repossessed later on, those demons will come back 7 times stronger. So the rumor mill states that the reason that Emma became possessed again was that her Aunt Mina, who was a reported, it was reported to be a local witch, who apparently put a spell on some herbs and then gave them to poor sweet Emma on a hopefully delicious meal, because if you're going to poison me, that food better be delicious. Alright? If you're going to put me through years of suffering, make it taste good. Aunt Mina was also allegedly sleeping with Emma's father, Jacob, while Emma's mother was still alive. So not a great woman. She's also being noted as being a child-murdering concubine, although I did not find proof for this. Honestly, there's barely any proof that Aunt Mina existed. But, once again, if she did exist, while under possession, Aunt Mina expressed that she had murdered her own children. While she was, once again, being questioned by the priest. I don't know if I'm going to keep that part in. Ratzinger requested to another priest to bring Emma to his royal parish because he wanted to protect her. He thought that getting her away from her local town into a new place would keep her, so when she defeated this possession, that she would be able to go back and live a normal life and no one would know who she was. So that's when she was brought to a Franciscan convent in Erling, Iowa. Not going to ever pronounce that, guys. I will never be able to pronounce difficult words ever. I cannot do it. My fiance consistently corrects me when I pronounce things wrong. It's never ending. So when Emma arrived at the convent, she immediately went into this exorcism where the first 2 were unsuccessful. So Emma, was placed firmly upon the mattress of an iron bed, Vogel wrote. Upon the advice of Father Theophilus, her arm sleeves and her dress were tightly bound as to prevent any devilish tricks. The strongest nuns were selected to assist in her case, in case anything might have happened. There was a suspicion that the devil might attempt attacking the exorcist during the ceremony. Should anything unusual happen, the nuns were told to hold the woman quiet upon her bed. Soon after the prescribed prayers of the church were begun, the woman sank into unconsciousness and remained in that state throughout the period of the exorcism. Her eyes were closed so tightly that no one could force them open. And if she wasn't possessed, I don't know how much I believe in, like, demonic possessions. I'm kind of all over the place with it because my issues with religion and God. But if she wasn't possessed, can you imagine how traumatizing, like, this whole situation is? She's being forced down and by these women and tied down to a bed, and then even, like, well, it's extremely traumatizing. But then also, this is, like, where I'm like, could possession be real? Because what the fudge happened in that room? So it was written that her body dislodged herself from her bed in the hands of her guards. They said that her body flew above them and held itself above the door with a tenacious grip. Like, if that's not possession, what the fuck is that? Because that is terrifying, okay? So her body is above the door in this convent room, and these nuns, and she's holding on tightly. I don't know what she's holding on to, but she's holding on to something in this room above the door frame, the wall, I guess. But these nuns get her down onto the bed and hold her back down there. And can we just take a minute to appreciate these nuns? Because these are women that have devoted their life to God. They don't work out. They don't they're not bodybuilders. They're just like little women. I'm just so fascinated that they were able to get her down back onto that bed and hold her down. And she's possessed by a demon, so she has, like, extra strength, and they're still able to do it. But what do these men do? Nothing. They did not help these women get her down. They did not help hold her down. They didn't do shit. They let these women do it. And they were just probably, screaming in prayer, being like, you got this. Yeah, I'm just going to stand back here. You guys got this. And so in Begone Satan, it is stated that there was a howling coming so loud from her room that she caught the attention of everyone else in the convent, and that they tried to go see what was happening, but they would, like, take one look upon the room and they would leave immediately. They said it was traumatizing to look upon what was happening in there, which is, probably accurate. I don't think I'd be able to stomach what was happening in that room. It was stated that Emma was apparently very gruesome to look upon. Her body was bent in different ways. It was then stated that the demon inside her started to distort her features, the demon possessing her, disfiguring her body, that the regular contour of her body had vanished. Her pale, death-like, and emaciated head, often assuming the size of an inverted water pitcher, became as red as glowing embers. Her eyes protruded out of their sockets. Her lips swelled up to proportions equaling the size of hands. Her thin, emaciated body was bloated to such an enormous size that the pastor and some of the sisters drew back out of fright, thinking that this woman would be torn to pieces and burst asunder. At times, her abdominal region and extremities became so hard as iron and stone. In such instances, the weight of her body pressed into the iron bedstand so that the iron rods of the bed bent to the floor. I'm sorry, but if I heard screaming and then went to, like, go see if they needed any help or anything, and you open the door, you knock, you open up the door, this is what you see, you're like, peace out. Y'all got this. I'm going to go clean the prayer room and just spend some time in there. Because, like, what? So Emma's exorcism lasted a total of 23 days. So Emma spent a total of 23 days, vomiting up things that she never ate. She did not eat for 23 days, is what is stated. She's vomiting up essentially random foods that they didn't know how she got. She spoke in many different voices and languages and made these inhuman sounds. She understood and read languages that she shouldn't have been able to read or understand. Now, she is from Marathon, so she could understand English, German, and a little bit of Latin from growing up in the church. But she was speaking languages that she's never heard of before. She's foaming at the mouth. She became enraged when Latin blessings were spoken over her. And they would try to test her to see if she was like what was happening by placing secular objects by her that had holy water on them. So some would have holy water and some would not. And so they would test it to see they would test Emma to see like if was she possessed or not. During the time of the 23 days, they asked her how many demons were in her. And this is where once again I'm like, demon possession, like is it like what? I don't think it's real, because like, was she actually possessed? You know, because after she responded, many. Emma told them that the Beelzebub. Oh, I'll figure it out. Was the leader of who was possessing her, and I'm like, it's always him or Legion. It's always these two possessing people. Like, aren't there shite ton of other demons? Why is it always Legion and Satan's bestie? You know? So several priests took part of these exorcisms, and one of them, Theophilus, stated that Lucifer himself was in the room. He stood there for 30 minutes with his bestie Beelzebub standing right next to him. He had a crown on his head and was holding a fiery sword, and the room was engulfed in flames, which, okay, so you're a priest and you're doing this exorcism, and then you see Satan and his bestie right there next to him, and the room isn't becoming inflamed. Are you really staying in there? Like, come on, guys. No one's that good of a person. And finally, on December 23rd, 1928, Emma was officially free from her demonic possession after 3 straight days of Father Reisinger doing an exorcism nonstop without sleep, rest, nothing. He just did his prayers for 3 days straight, and it finally led to Emma being free. So when she was free of these possessions, it's stated in the book that she stood up. Yeah, she stood right up, and then she collapsed completely. And after she collapsed, a piercing sound entered the room, and the names of the demons that were possessing her just like kept repeating over and over and over again as the sound dwindled out. And once that happened and she was no longer possessed and the noises stopped, it is said, and it's stated throughout the town, the entire town, the convent, that this disgusting smell just came from the room. They don't know what it is, but people were saying there's comments in the book from people who were there at the time saying that the smell just came out of nowhere. And right after that smell, Emma opened her eyes and stated, "My Jesus mercy, praised be Jesus Christ." And within a year of the exorcism, all the nuns who were stationed there had been transferred. Every single one of them asked to be transferred. They were traumatized by what had taken place at that convent. They thought that it had just made it dirty. I don't know, but they were thoroughly traumatized by what happened there, and every single one of them asked to be placed in a different convent. But Father Steiger, who was I don't really know who he was. I just knew that he was in the room. He was originally stationed at this convent. He took part in the exorcism. There's not really a whole bunch about him. But he remained until he died, up until 1938. And then in 1995, that convent was torn down. So it's no longer standing. And Father Reisinger continued on with his missions for another 30 years. I don't think he partook in... It's not stated if he partook in any more exorcisms or not. I don't really know. I just know that he continued on with his mission work for another 30 years. And it's reported that Emma lived a completely normal life and went back to her Catholic faith and lived a very devout, pious life. And so with that is the story of Emma Schmidt, or Anna Ecklund, or even Mary X, depending on how you guys have heard about her. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I promise as time goes on I will learn how to edit and do these videos without as many interruptions, cuts, all the fun stuff. Okay, bye!